Good afternoon, and thank you for giving my family and I this opportunity to pay tribute to Twyla. It is an honor for me to have known Twyla, who was an example of love, compassion, strength, and kindness until her final moments with us on earth. Twyla came to Hamtramck in 2000 with her husband Bill. Soon, they bought a second home behind theirs for their daughter, son-in-law, and 2 grandsons. They said they had 100 reasons why they moved to Hamtramck from Royal Oak, the opposite direction most people were taking at that time. One of them being that Hamtramck didn't have a golf course or any pretensions of wealth. Another, that it offered a better opportunity to learn about and live with people of other cultures. You know, a walk in my shoes experience. They immediately dived into the political scene and developed among many ethnic groups. Twy became familiar with all the resale shops and coffee houses in town and supported the local businesses. She avidly participated in poetry slams, public forums on vital issues, and eventually in 2010, her and Bill started a community organization called One Hamtramck, a group dedicated to bringing people together. Surprised? And they work together as they did in most all projects. On the Kursky Fund multimedia presentation home suite, this is where 18 immigrants were asked 4 questions about home. Although Twyla wasn't an immigrant, unless you count Bay City. She was the test subject for the interviews, and here are answers for the 3rd and 4th question that were to be asked of each immigrant.
When I moved to Hamtramck, we had been living in Royal Oak, which was a nice community, quite a wealthy community, with a downtown that was made up of nightclubs and restaurants. We felt that it just wasn't stimulating enough, and Hamtramck looked like a great place to live with a lot of really interesting people and businesses and a little theater here and a few other things that we could get involved with. It didn't really cost us a lot to move here because we sold our home and was able to buy 2 homes here in Hamtramck, one that our daughter and her family could live in. So that was a really nice thing. We worked for about 6 months on this house, renovating it and fixing up the whole area so that we would be, feel like we had pretty much the same comforts that we did when we lived in other cities. Well, here in Hamtramck, our home is really comfortable. It's a home that, unlike a lot of other homes here, has a huge yard and a driveway, which is quite a commodity to have a place for your cars or vans or whatever you have to actually park off the street. My daughter and her 2 sons and husband live behind us, across the alley, and it's a really comfortable thing to know that our family is so close. We've made a lot of friends and lost a lot of friends here in Hamtramck. When you're in a small town and the city government is really as controversial as ours is, you get involved in it and you get into some pretty difficult things, arguments and discussions that sometimes lead to breaking up of friendships, which is what happened to us. My husband's a musician and he works a lot of jobs. Some of them musically do happen here in Hamtramck. I like Hamtramck. It's a nice town. I wish there wasn't so much divisiveness in the city government. I wish the police department was a lot more open to being more fair in the community and just, not looking to bring down the citizens as much as just keep the peace and make it a safe place for everyone. I'm happy with with Hamtramck, although I am disappointed in some ways as well, but generally I'm very happy with it. And I don't plan to die here in Hamtramck, but I don't plan to leave it very soon either. Thanks.
One Hamtramck went on to sponsor 3 major art projects. One for the Yemeni community, a giant Bangladesh mural, then one dedicated to the victims of the COVID pandemic. Twy was also involved in producing many community forums about important issues of peace and justice. She also helped revive the Hamtramck branch of the NAACP for its 100th anniversary. All during this community work, Twyla maintained her lovely home, hosted gatherings, developed a growing garden of beautiful flowers, all while enduring the severe pain of rheumatoid arthritis and rarely complaining. One of her last acts was to create a rest stop in her front yard for walkers going down the long blocks of Trowbridge Street, or just for people to meditate under the sprawling branches of one of the largest yew trees in Michigan. She regularly committed random acts of kindness and nurtured her friendships whenever possible. Twyla officially became a certified world citizen, which is an option available to all people who share the same concerns of bringing the world's people together in love. Their motto is a famous Thomas Paine quote:
"The world is my country, all mankind is my brethren, and to do good is my religion."
One Hamtramck honored me at a special forum in 2019 and proudly introduced me to the public as the nation's first Yemeni American superintendent. They have continued to back me up and have been responsible taxpayers who have posed crucial questions to the school board. More of Twyla's life in Hamtramck will be presented at the memorial next Sunday in the town that she loved and worked in for the last 22 years of her life. The venue and the food was graciously offered to Bill once they learned of Twyla's passing, an act of recognition for the strong bonds she built among friends in the Hamtramck Muslim community. I hope to see you there to further honor this wonderful, open-minded, loving woman and share in the many wonders of a small, struggling urban city. Thank you. Now, I would like to introduce you to a special guest, one of the original members of One Hamtramck, a fellow activist and close friend of Bill and Twyla, the newly re-elected state representative from the 9th District. He made history last month when he was elected to serve as the next majority floor leader in the Michigan House, making him the highest ranking Arab and first Muslim in House leadership anywhere in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, Representative Ibrahim Aiyash.
Good evening. First time I met Twyla was at a coffee shop, and I had no idea she was Bill Meyer's wife. And she'd sit at Cafe 1923 often, watching these new yuppies coming into Hamtramck, and was always critical. Didn't let them get away with the yuppiness that they bring into the city, as she called them, and would always remind them that this was a community of immigrants, that there was a changing tide with a new generation of immigrants and a sub-community that had been developing in Hamtramck. So for those of you that knew Twyla, you knew that, and we're not in a house of worship, so I'm going to swear a little bit, she didn't take much shit from anybody. And beyond that, she didn't let you spouse shit to anybody either. which I think was one of her most incredible qualities. You know, as a politician, you know, I used to be their friend, and I used to be an activist, but then when I became a politician, they say, you know what, Abe, you're a politician. You know, you have to play the game. So she'd always call me out anytime I'd fall into my politician tropes, whether it was the way I dressed or how I answered certain questions or the way I conducted myself. And she'd do it in a very sly way, you know? It was never direct the way Bill would do it. You know, Bill would say, oh, Abraham, you're a politician. And Twyla would say, is that really what you're going to say? Or do you really believe that? And her eyebrows would go up a couple centimeters, and she'd sort of look away at you, knowing that you're still looking at her, to remind you that you're full of shit. And that was really the first time I'd met Twyla was at this coffee shop. And then the second time was at Yemen Cafe. This was the first time I'd known Bill, or known of Bill Meyer for a while, but this was the first time that we had really had a conversation. You know, we talked about the division in our community, particularly in Hamtramck, and the ethnoclassism that appeared between sort of the quote-unquote old guard versus the new wave of folks that were coming into power in Hamtramck.
Excuse me, everybody, if I can get your attention for a couple minutes. So I kind of stayed here and I heard what everyone had to say, and as a Yemeni American, I kind of wanted to talk about some things that I notice are problematic in this city and things that we need to start knowing how to discuss. So in terms of politics, right, we can disagree on issues, but I think where we have an issue in Hamtramck sometimes is we struggle with having discourse. So a lot of times what I see is when we disagree on issues, whether it's on the city manager fault or whether if it's an issue of public versus charter schools, we always tend to hit below the belt. And I think that's really where the core of the issues are and what we need to try to help address, because saying Hamtramck's diverse, saying Hamtramck has people from all over the place isn't enough. I didn't choose to be Yemeni, you didn't choose to be black, you didn't choose to be Polish, you didn't choose to be born abroad or here in the US. And I think that's what the crux of the issue is we have to be able to talk to each other and extend a hand and stop raising fists. Because anytime there's a conflict, and I've seen this over the past couple months, is, well, so-and-so is from this country and he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, or, you know, these Polish people are still trying to latch on to power, and all these blasphemous things are said. And I think the truth of the matter is, unless we're able to talk with each other, and really talk, not just coming to a Yemeni restaurant, eating food and going home, right? Having shawarma doesn't make you cultured. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance doesn't simply make you American, right? There are ideals and values that we, as Hamtramckans and as Americans, have to try to implement, right? Having your neighbor give you something, you know, a piece of sweet when it's Ramadan, that's not enough, right? We have to be able to understand one another, and then that's how discourse happens. Because the truth of the matter is, I can't talk to someone if I don't understand who they are or where they come from. And I think that's what we need to try to talk about with each other as we move forward, because if we want this city to be great, right, issues of water, issues of pollution, issues of potholes, those are not Muslim issues, those are not atheist issues, those are not gay or straight issues, those are Hamtramck issues, right? And I think that's what I want you guys to help try to remember as we move forward. And if there's any assignment, right, I'm a recent college grad, so, you know, I can't give people homework yet, but I guess one thing I want to say is if there's something we can do before you leave, try to talk to somebody that you haven't met before. Understand who they are, understand where they're from, and really live by that concept of having one Hamtramck. Again, my name is Abraham Aiyash. Thank you, everybody.
Abraham Aiyash. I just took a chance. I didn't know what he was going to say. I gave him the microphone, and it was very valuable. Thank you so much.
So we connected on that issue. And it was from that moment on that I would sort of go back to Twyla and Bill, and I'd never forget the first time I went to Bill's house. He had a diner's booth in his house. I was like, where did you get this from? You know? He's like, well, you know, me and Twyla like going out to eat, so I figured I'd just bring it back to our house. was like, wow. And I think that speaks to the love that Bill had for Twyla. And when I first got the correspondence that she was ill, and then ultimately that he had to make a decision that I hope none of us in this room ever have to make, of deciding to let a loved one go. You know, I thought back to all the times that I engaged with them, but then I thought deeper about the 7 decades of life that they had gone through. The amount of lives that they touched, the amount of pain that they endured, the amount of purpose they found and lost and then found again. You know, and I was talking to Bill earlier this week, and it really is something to be seen, the love that they had for one another. You know, I hope that one day I'll marry a woman that keeps me in check the way Twyla did to Bill, but also had that fervent love, that uncompromising, organic, dynamic love that they had for one another, that every single person who met them knew that they were a dynamic duo. And I don't know, Bill, I don't know the pain that you are going through. And I don't know how it feels to lose someone who you spent so much of your life with, and you experienced so much good and so much bad, and you've met so many incredible people. I can't even put into words or even thoughts of what that feels like. But I think what's incredibly beautiful today is you look behind you, there are an entire group. This is just folks from Metro Detroit. And I know you got friends everywhere. I mean, I've been on some of your Zoom calls where you watch movies. You look at this room of how many people are here because, one, they either loved the both of you or they loved Twyla. And it's hard to find a group of folks that have been able to build friendships with people as a pair. You know, I think about my past relationships, and you know, some of their friends I couldn't stand. And I'm sure it was vice versa, yet you guys have managed to build a partnership that really was a package deal. And to find somebody with so much synergy and so much organic connection and flow, I think it's such a beautiful thing. So Twyla may be gone physically, but I think every single thing that she shared with you and then shared with us is going to remain. And the last time I saw her was right before my primary. I was actually on Trowbridge. I go up to their door and we're talking. Obviously, Bill always has a project he's working on, so we're talking about the Yemen Park that we're trying to get this going. And I want to announce today that when the park breaks ground, we will dedicate a garden in honor of Twyla. And you know, we hope it'll be a motif to who she was. You know, someone that is so organic and continues to grow and give, and hopefully the community will benefit from that. But Bill was talking about the Yemen Mural Project, and Twyla was keeping me in check. You know, are you falling into the politician trope, or are you still trying to find a way to stay connected? And I'll never forget the years that I had with Twyla and the friendship that I was able to build with both her and Bill. And you know, I could say I'm incredibly grateful that you're still here with us, Bill, and I hope that you will remain strong in this process, because I know that if there's anything Twyla wanted for you is that you keep your friends close, and that if she didn't value your ability to bring people together, she would not allow you to have all those movie nights in your basement. She wouldn't allow you to have guests over despite her dog always getting frustrated with us. I mean, that I think, and my hope that you will keep that going, that you keep people around you, and I know that you are going through a lot of pain right now, Bill. But I want you to remember that every single person sitting behind you, that we are here to take some of that pain away and replace it with the joy and love that Twyla brought into your life by showing you through our reflections, the way she touched our lives and the way you guys collectively have touched our lives. So I just wanted to say we love you. We love Twyla, and I know she's in a better place resting right now, and I think that for you to have so much care for her in those final moments is something that will always sit with us in terms of the way we saw you interacted with her, and that we will continue to do the work of taking your pain away. Thank you, Bill. Love you. And I love you, Twyla.